Well, first of all was the proximity, I think, for me. My family was not a well-to-do family, maybe is the best way to say it. And so money was tough for us. And I think, and I've thought about this a number of times, if Northwest State or Northwest Tech at that time had not been there, would I have gone to college? And I'm not sure I would have. I don't think that they could have afforded to, well, I know they couldn't have afforded to put me up, someplace and pay the higher tuition that you would pay at some of the other universities and colleges in the area. So it really was maybe the only option for me in the circumstances I was in at the time to further my education. And having Northwest Tech there, short drive, maybe 20 minutes from where I lived, and being able to live at home while I did that, the tuition was very affordable. It allowed me to be able to work while I went to college. And so, I had some student debt when I got out of there, but most of it I paid as I went. Not at all. I thought that they had a very good program. I still feel that way when I look back at the education that I received. I ended up in the utilities industry, and engineering is a big part of that, but financial pieces, business piece of it is a big part too. I ended up later completing my bachelor's degree at the Defiance College. Okay, but that was after I was working full-time and had a family and did the night and weekend thing to get that done. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would have gotten my four-year degree at that point. But no, the education that I received there was an excellent education, and I was applying it as soon as I came to work here. Good question. Well, I graduated from Northwest Tech in 1981. I didn't complete my bachelor's degree until 1996. So it was a significant period of time later. And I was trying to move up in the organization here, and I knew to do that I needed to get that business education, further my education. I had the technical end of it pretty well in hand, but needed more business experience. And so for me, that night and weekend college over there at Defiance was a big help. But what was even a bigger help was that I got credit for my time at Northwest Tech. I look back at it now and think I was just very determined. At the time, I was the only one of 7 kids in my family that went to college. And there's only been a couple of people in my family, my dad's family, let's say going back 100 years. There's a handful of us that have a associate's degree or bachelor's degree. And so it meant a great deal to me from that point of view. My folks were hard workers and did the best they could with what they had available to them. So I think that there was a determination built up in me that I could keep my nose to the grindstone, and even though maybe I would have liked to have been out having fun doing something else during the time I was hitting the books, either studying or in class, I could keep the end goal in mind. But I think it was easier, as I mentioned too, because I had started with the 2-year program there at Northwest Tech. I had a degree in 2 years. And so then it made it easier to look ahead and say, well, I don't have to go 4 years, I only have to do 2 more years. And how quickly I get through this is really kind of up to how much I think that I can handle and my family can handle with me studying and being away from home at classes. Well, I'm the Director of Utilities for the City of Bryan Municipal Utilities. We are a municipally owned electric, water, and communications utility, so we provide internet and cable television services in addition to water and electric service in the Bryan area. And my career, next year I've been doing this for 40 years. I've worked in a number of different locations, including Austin, Minnesota, and Wyandotte, Michigan, Bowling Green, Ohio. I was the Director of Utilities there. And most recently, before returning to Bryan, I was the Director of Utilities in Hamilton, Ohio, between Dayton and Cincinnati. I think, for me, at the time that I was coming back up here, my father was aging, and he was experiencing some physical and mental difficulties. I was his guardian, had power of attorney for him. And it was hard to do from 3 hours away to handle those financial, legal, medical things. And so I think I would have probably ended up here again eventually, but the opportunity arose and my wife and I discussed it, and I thought, if I'm going back there someday, I'm going to need a job anyway, and I already know what this job and this community is about, this organization, because I worked here for 17 years before I left. And so it seemed like it all sort of came together at the right time for whatever reason that might have been, and worked out well for us to relocate here, and our children have followed us back here too, and so our whole family has relocated here in Bryan. I think for me anyway, it goes back to those things that I think it's if it wasn't here, let's just say that as a possibility. If it wasn't here, what would people do? How many lives would be negatively impacted because it's not here? Who would be able to afford to go somewhere else to get that education that they need? And so many of the areas there, are vital to this local economy. The nursing program over there, for example, is astounding. It turns out a lot of great people that fill a very big need in our area. Engineering, all of the business and everything else, those are very, very practical educations, so that people, if you get your education there, you're going to put it to work if you want to. There's jobs that are related to it. But having the 2-year program and, the competitive tuition, having it in a situation where it's readily accessible by car from a huge population area, I think those are all very positive things for the institution. But it's not a new one either. I mean, it's been there for a long time now, and so it's got a very well established history of doing that. There's nothing that's changed, I think, about that from the time that it opened years and years ago to the present. So, those are all positive things for someone considering going out there. And as we had already discussed, the ability to transfer that to some 4-year program, if you're interested in doing that, is a wonderful addition to it.